Hi, I'm RobinYaram from the enablement team at SEEK.
And I'm Laura Bracegirdle. Together, we manage the delivery of all of our training to our sales and service department.
Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk to you about how we run a non-traditional enablement team and how we've kept all functions of that team relevant and with purpose during what has been a chaotic and quite turbulent year.
As Rob mentioned, we're an L&D team with a twist. Outside of the normal soft and technical skills training and onboarding and induction, we also manage the rewards and recognition program for sales and service and the events that connect our teams. Because of this, we have a mix of talent, from soft skills trainers, instructional designers, event managers, CRM experts, and a multimedia producer. This makes us a pretty unique team of 10 people with a lot of diverse skills that we can draw from. This also means we have the opportunity to leverage department conferences and rewards programs to drive the adoption of training.
Look, I don't think the shift to online anyone can answer perfectly, and it probably seems like a lifetime ago. At SEEK, we received an email on a Sunday saying we had started working from home come Monday. It still feels surreal now as it did then. We went into self-preservation mode. We saw supermarket shelves strip bare, and in our home, we decided to keep our daughter home with immediate effect. As we didn't know who the virus was targeting, and with our daughter having some pre-existing conditions, we decided to start homeschooling. We thought it would be a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. Little did we know that this would become the norm. On a work front, we posted or we saw pictures of Zoom meetings on social media. This was all about being visible, being relevant. We adapted what we had done in the office from a training point of view and made it shorter, and we thought we were being agile. It was only once we stopped thinking about what our personal relevance was and what our purpose was that things started to change and that things started to get exciting.
We had just delivered a successful 2-day in-person conference in March 2020 called SaaSCon. The closing remarks may have been that we shouldn't steal the toilet paper from the venue as we leave because COVID was digging in its heels. Our next conference was scheduled for August 2020, and there was a lot of positive commentary that life would be back to normal soon. Less than a month later, we'd deferred all in-person bookings for 12 months because the situation was deteriorating and it was clear we were going to be fighting this for a lot longer than we originally anticipated. In late 2020, it was clear we could no longer wait to meet in person to connect and train our department, so we shifted to a virtual offering. We had a few key principles in mind when designing the conference. It needed to be engaging, as Zoom fatigue was real, and it needed to create the sense of connection that people were missing. We built a custom-designed virtual platform that replicated our newly built offices in Cremorne. We used gamification and a virtual photo booth with a networking lounge. People attended a mix of live and pre-recorded sessions with access to a marketplace of on-demand learning. The 2-day conference was scheduled for only 2.5 hours a day, and all of the content was available on platform for the next 30 days. In lieu of a traditional networking event, people pre-registered for one of 9 virtual activities. These included things like cheese tasting, gin making, clay sculpting. Some even learned how to play the ukulele. The regions that weren't in lockdown celebrated the 2 days with an in-person dinner. However, Melbourne's dinner has since been deferred twice. We learned a lot along the way. For one, creating a virtual platform for the first time was a lot more time-consuming than organising an in-person event. Virtual conferences gave attendees options. They could choose how they wanted to consume information and how they wanted to interact. Those who were homeschooling their kids were able to catch up after hours so they didn't miss out. Reducing the program to 2.5 hours per day made it easier for staff to attend without missing critical BAU that arises when you're in a client-facing role.
In terms of soft or people skills, depending on what you call it in your organisation, we decided that we would try multiple new things whilst keeping true to some of the older ways of learning in a face-to-face world. I'm not going to go through all of the sub-brands on this page, but each was born during COVID. Each category of training had its own brand, as we wanted to make it easy for people to remember what each category was associated with. Think about an email inbox, how you have different folders and you store different topics in different folders. We were trying to do the same things. Some of these ideas worked, some of them didn't, and that was totally fine. We are in a world that is uncertain and where change occurs daily. If I could sum up our key learnings to share, I would think of 3 things. And to be fair, the 3 things that I talk about now will probably be 3 different things that I talk about 6 months from now. Number 1, 2021 is the year of the Great Resignation. Don't just invest in your people purely for business beneficial reasons. Invest in them as people. At Seek, yes, we offer traditional sales, service, and leadership training, but we also experimented with things like podcasts on homeschooling or mindfulness. We got people that were in sales and service to create videos on how they were keeping routine in a world where routine was now out the window. Creating content that doesn't necessarily mean anything to the organization is not only the right thing to do now, but it shows people that you care about them. 2, cultivate an environment with your teams where trial and error is fine. Nobody expects perfection at the moment, so it's the perfect time to try something new. If it works, fantastic. If it needs a bit of tweaking, no problem. And if you need it to be binned, at least you tried. And lastly, number 3, involve your audience to present and be part of the solution. The role of the facilitator no longer needs to be front and center. Hearing from people in the business not only provides credibility in a remote world, but makes them feel valued and creates greater connection throughout the business.
We transitioned to work from home relatively easily because we were all on laptops and we had cloud-based software to work with. That meant that our tech and product teams continued to create and iterate throughout COVID. If anything, it felt like they were producing more than before. We had a lot of product and technical training to deliver. We just had to figure out what was the best way to do it all virtually. Previously, we'd relied on a blend of online learning and face-to-face training. We used eLearns for compliance, ebooks were an ongoing resource, but the majority of our product training was delivered face-to-face with activities like speed dating to bring it to life. Zoom breakout rooms provided a forum where we could replicate this to a degree, but it doesn't have the same buzz as a room bubbling with conversation. We found we needed a trainer or a subject matter expert in each breakout room to keep the teams on track and to provide clarity or guidance when it was needed. Pre-work and referenced resources were more important than ever before in scenario-based workshops, and we had to constantly think about how we could make each workshop or roleplay feel different. Blending soft skills modules with our technical training provided relevance and bang for buck with a team that were becoming Zoom fatigued. We would split training into different bite-sized sessions. Firstly, a knowledge session, which was followed up by a practical workshop. And finally, we covered off the operational training needed for our own internal systems and processes, and we spread these out over multiple days. Virtual training has provided us an equitable experience for all of our teams. Our regional officers had previously commented that they lacked access to the breadth of knowledge and experience in our head office. Now they have the same access and experience every time. Like most companies, when COVID first hit, we all took a sharp dive in revenue and we looked to reduce internal costs as much as possible. We reviewed our internal rewards and recognition program and we adapted what we could. We have a reward called Exec Club. This is focused on recognition for our top performers in sales and service. Previously, it was a day in head office of roundtable discussions with each of our exec team where they could share their experiences working on the front line and get insight into what direction the business was heading to straight from the source. This was easily adapted to a virtual offering with shortened sessions on Zoom where we could still facilitate that casual discussion and people were given Uber Eats vouchers in lieu of a group lunch in person. We found this actually worked better for us virtually. It was easier to schedule as our exec team are based across Victoria and New South Wales. It also meant that winners didn't have to incorporate lost time in travel to redeem the experience. Moving forward, it's likely we'll keep this incentive as a virtual day. Another part of our R&R program that's relevant for this forum is our Honour Roll Award. Several years ago, through our company insight survey, people wanted to be supported more in their development. We now run a program every 6 months where staff can nominate themselves for any kind of learning or development that is related to their current or future role at Seek. Winners are selected from a panel of leaders and Seek contributes a cash amount to their development. Nominations for this award spiked during COVID as people were self-reflecting on their career and what they wanted from their work life.
If what we have shared in this video highlights anything, I hope it's that what we have focused on is connection, not perfection. That a culture of learning is no longer push, but it's now pull. that COVID has torpedoed the change we've all been talking about at learning conferences for years. We all knew that the 8-hour training day was stale, but we did nothing about it. COVID has now forced that to change. Online learning is no longer a nice to have and is certainly not just an e-learn anymore, but it's now a video, it's a podcast, and so on. It doesn't even need to be training created by the enablement team. In closing, if I can suggest one thing, create a learning environment where people feel like there's a safety net to try something new. By doing so, you'll come up with something that is different, but also balanced with what is suitable for your business culture, and where learning initiatives that were in the pipeline don't need to be paused. Thanks for listening and watching. It's a shame we couldn't get together in person to do this, but soon enough for sure. If you're in one of the cities that's in lockdown, stay safe, take care, bye for now.